high segment here now, and we had a lot going on last night in the Pacific, and it has resulted in several impacts. Most importantly, though, the tsunami warnings and advisories that have been issued here in the United States, especially in California along the Pacific coastline, where right now we are actually seeing some 3 to 5 foot waves being recorded on shore in some of these coastal areas. And that was an impact as well in Hawaii and some of the Pacific Islands, resulting from what was a major earthquake off of the Russian coastline last night.
Yeah, this happened when we were sleeping. I woke up and I saw the breaking news. I saw a lot of social media chatter about a massive earthquake. I mean, you're getting close to a 9.0 on the Richter scale. This would be the largest earthquake, Dante, that we've seen since 2011. And it looks like preliminarily that this is top 10 strongest earthquakes ever observed on the earth.
That's very powerful, and considering that when you go up one value on the Richter scale, you're actually going up many, many times in force and power.
Yes.
And we have been observing these earthquakes still in a periodic sense. This was an 8.8 magnitude there. It occurred off the Kamchatka Peninsula, just off of the Russian coast in the eastern Pacific. And what that did, that triggers a lot of plate movements, and the vibrations increases the wave action, forcing the water at the lower levels of the ocean upward and causing those higher level waves that we end up referring to as a tsunami.
Yes.
And it's a very unique word for a lot of people. Some people talk about rogue waves. Well, tsunamis are much more powerful than just a simple rogue wave. It's multiple rounds and series.
That's the misnomer. A lot of people like to think, okay, it's one big solitary tidal wave, if you will. It's multiple waves. It's a Japanese word, tsunami, for harbor wave, what we call a rogue wave, if you will. But yeah, when you displace that much water, it's like dropping a big brick in a tiny pool. You're going to generate a lot of energy, a lot of ripples coming off of that. And those ripples are analogous to rounds of tsunami.
Right, and those initial tsunami warnings were issued for portions of Hawaii where we saw upwards of 5 to 10 feet wave action, flooding parking lots, even coming ashore. And people in Hawaii on the Big Island, also Oahu as well, were talking about how they observed the water kind of drifting away.
Yes, very ominous when you see that. Very ominous when you see the water receding, because that's a sign something's not right in the ocean for sure.
Big problems are on the way. You need to be able to get to a safe harbor or a higher elevation. Over 2 million people evacuated from Japan to Alaska to Hawaii, to Pacific Islands, and now we've even got some impacts still here on the Pacific coast here in California. Tsunami warnings in effect there for a portion of the California coastline there, and this is going to be a factor throughout today. We've actually been seeing some 3 to 5 foot observations within that red colored area of California.
So that's like 3 to 5 feet of storm surge, essentially. When you're raising, it's one thing to think about a 3 to 5 foot wave when you're out in the ocean. I mean, that's big enough, but when you're thinking about the water level essentially rising by 3 to 5 feet, and then you tie it in with high tide. Unfortunately, Northern California kind of in that zone right now. And if you look at that coastline in Northern California, it's kind of concave.
Right.
So the water gets piled into that region and it rises quicker. And that's why that section was issued a tsunami warning, while further north and south, it's a tsunami advisory, which is a step down. But Northern California, Crescent City area is very vulnerable to that type of flooding.
Absolutely, and still through the entire West Coast, tsunami advisories in effect from just north of Seattle all the way down to north of Los Angeles. It doesn't appear to include the LA area any longer, but there's still the potential that some wave action could impact these spots, even though they're not seeing the highest rises.
And it's interesting what the National Weather Service said in Honolulu, Hawaii, when the tsunami warning was issued. They don't issue it directly, but the language is that tsunamis, doesn't matter which direction it's impacting the island, it will kind of circulate the island. So even east-facing beaches, even east-facing coming from the west, of course the tsunami is where it's originating, they could still see tsunami waves.
Absolutely. And it's a continuous thing. If we can take our U.S. Geological Survey site that we got a quick preview of about a minute ago, This single earthquake was an 8.8 magnitude, but it was not the only earthquake that was observed.
You're exactly
off of
right.
the Russian coastline here. Take a look at all of those dots. That blue dot is the big 8.8 magnitude that forced the majority of the wave action. But
Right.
you're getting these little aftershocks. Some of them are 4, some of them are 3, some of them are 5, some of them are 2. And these aftershocks continue throughout the day. And unfortunately, because this hasn't calmed down yet, there could still be another tsunami series.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, some aftershocks can be as strong as a 6, or I've even seen a few 7 aftershocks. I mean, anytime you're dealing with an 8.8, obviously there's a lot of, friction going on with the plate boundaries there. So the oceanic plate, the Pacific plate's going underneath that land plate, and that causes a lot of earthquakes, a lot of volcanic activity too, and that tends to be found more in the Cascade Mountain Range in the United States. But all around that area of the Pacific Rim, we call it the Ring of Fire, and that's where you're just getting constant plate action, and that can create a lot of volatility.
And to some extent, although we haven't had an earthquake here in West Virginia, for a magnitude 8 earthquake, if you look at the, what do you call them, the seismographs.
Seismographs, yeah.
Different sites, that especially into our lower elevations in Ohio and also our higher elevations into the mountains.
Yes.
We haven't seen a whole lot of cause for concern, but we have seen something interesting.
It was very interesting. I mean, we are 5,000 miles away from this earthquake, Dante. Just let that sink in. 5,000 miles, and yet seismographs here in West Virginia, in Gilmer County, Raleigh County, and also in our Ohio counties, were showing activity last evening.
That's incredible.
When this happened. Now, it took about 12 to 15 minutes for those waves of energy to make it all the way into our region, but they did. Now, it's registering on the seismograph, but we probably couldn't feel it personally. We couldn't feel it, but down deep in the ground, the seismograph was registering some energy coming off of those earthquakes 5,000 miles away.
That is remarkable, and that just shows how intense these are when you get up into these higher values of the Richter scale in an earthquake. It's literally like expanding times 10 with
True. It's not logarithmic. It's logarithmic. It's
right.
not, it's not like Cat 1, Cat 2. I mean, it is doubling and tripling and as you were mentioning there. So it's much more energetic.
Exactly. So some key points here about our tsunami feature here. Series of waves. It's not just one wave. It's over and over again until the situation stops, until things calm down out there in the plates. And that's still a problem. Those earthquakes usually can trigger a volcanic eruption, especially along the Ring of Fire. If
right.
And lava gets into the ocean at the wrong time, that can trigger a localized tsunami, and that can lead to many impacts. The speed is intense, and we talk about how it looks like that the water's rushing away. You get to higher ground, it can be hard to see, and they can be moving. These big waves will be moving over 500 miles per hour.
That's a jet plane. That is a jet plane. And here's the funny thing about the tsunami over open water. If you're out in the open water, it may be an inch tall. The tsunami may be an inch tall. It causes problems when it comes into shallow areas because all that energy has nowhere to go.
If you're on a boat,
and that's when your wave really comes up in the shallow areas.
If you're on a boat, you might not even notice it.
You would, yeah, absolutely.
That's what's so remarkable about it. And then when you come in on land where things get shallow and you start to crash against the shore, that's often where this becomes a big problem. So we'll continue to monitor this throughout the day today, of course, and we'll be right back here on ARC Appalachia in just a bit.